right, we are at John Glenn International Airport on a Wednesday morning, July the something or other, well, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. There we go, John Glenn International Airport, getting ready to fly out to Portland and do some neat stuff. All right, well, here we are at the John Glenn International Airport. Beetle, are you ready? We're hitting the road for Portland. When we land, then we're going to go to Seattle, and we're in the land of masks. We had escaped the land of masks for a while back in the real world, but here in travel world, everybody wears a mask. Mine looks like an ascot right now, but it's really a mask. Jonathan is trying to get through and not allow any masking, so we'll just see what happens.
It is our absolute pleasure to welcome you to Minneapolis, where the current local time is 7:14 a.m.
Hey, I'm glad you're joining Elizabeth and I here at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport here in the Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Twin City area. We are on a great journey, and we're glad you're coming along with us. Are you having fun? Yeah, she's having fun. Jonathan, who's behind the camera, he's having a little bit of fun. All these people walking by, they're wondering what we're doing. Well, I'll tell you exactly what we're doing. We are headed to Portland, Oregon, and we're on a similar journey that a man by the name of Dr. Erik East, first medical missionary to the Chin people in the heart of Burma. We learned about Dr. East, and we've been working on a book, have we not?
Yes.
For Foundations of Grace Publishing and the Chin Heritage Foundation. We're trying to help the Chin people, a subgroup of people in the country of Myanmar, people that we have been spending time with for about 10 years, and I wrote my book, Myanmar Gold, about. But they're spiritual heroes. We're wanting to help them reclaim their Christian history, learn about these people, where they came from. And so we are on a journey too that was like his. He actually came from Sweden, and when he was there, he was trained in working in steam engines, and he worked in the engine of a steamboat and worked in the Atlantic. In fact, he even got shipwrecked in the middle of the winter, almost died. But he ended up immigrating, and he was just like a 16-year-old kid when he was doing this. Could you imagine having a job like that, you know, at that age, you know? So he left Sweden. His uncle was already here. He invited him to come out and live with him. Came out to America, and he ended up going to medical school in Kentucky, which isn't really far from where we are. So his journey from Kentucky out to Portland is a little bit like ours. He had to go west. I don't know if he came through Minneapolis or not, but it's certainly kind of on the way. But we're flying out to Portland, and that's where he ended up settling before God called him to come to the country of Burma. And this was right at the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, that he lived, and that he ended up coming over to help Dr. Arthur Carson and his wife Laura. Actually, he's not a doctor, but Dr. East is. And he came because they were praying that God would send them a doctor. So we're going out to meet the family members, and we're glad, you know, to be in this beautiful place. They call it the land of 10,000 sunsets here. As we were flying over, we got to see the beautiful lakes and the sun actually rising. So they were talking about sunsets. We were here when the sun's rising. We got here about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're gearing up because when we get there where we're going to hit the ground, and we're going to go to Seattle. We're going to visit an island there. I'm not going to tell you exactly what that's about. I'll tell you later. We're going to go to downtown Seattle, where we're going to visit a grave, but it's not the grave of Dr. East. I'm going to kind of keep you hanging if you want to join us and follow us along. We're going to a grave. It'll probably be the last grave that you would ever expect that we would go to, but it's part of this great story. And but we're going to visit with the family and go to the gravesite of Dr. Erik and his wife Emily, who are both buried in Portland. And then we're going to head south to Eugene, to the Museum of Natural and Cultural History. This is where he brought back a lot of his stuff from his time there. One of the things we're going to see that I have been wanting to see forever since I learned about it, his diary. We have his diary entries someone typed out, but we want to see the handwritten, right? Elizabeth and another team, she and her sister Rebecca, are going to be heading to Atlanta to see the original documents of his letters that came back and forth. We, though, our little team here is going to Portland, and we're going to see the artifacts that he brought back from his trip. And among those are his diary. We have the whole thing. We're going to see the handwritten copy of it, and his medical treatments journal, complete with drawings and how he treated different ailments that he was, encountering there among the Chin people. So, if you want to join us, stay with us, hang out with us. We're going to be taking lots of pictures and videos and telling you about our adventures as we go along. But for now, I'm thinking that while we're waiting for our connecting flight to Portland, I think what I'll do is see if I can get somebody to shine my shoes. Until then, we'll see you.
Welcome you to Portland. The correct local time is 11:59 a.m. Please stay seated with your seatbelt fastened, carrying items loaded.
All right, so we've made it to Portland. We got our rental car in lightning speed. We collected everybody. We got our directions set for where we're going. And looks like we're about 2 hours away from our ferry. And it's going to be great. We're going to be out on the water in about 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm praying to God we see an orchid. I mean, mountains and trees and Oregon and rivers and sounds, and I don't even know. I don't know if you can capture it on the camera, but it's there, and it's all here. Oregon is God's country. So this is the Carr Inlet of the southern part of Puget Sound, and we're looking at Anderson Island in front of us here, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll see some aquatic wildlife. Hey, I'm not kidding. I literally think as I said it, there's actually a big, black, large sea creature out in there.
Are you okay?
Finally reached downtown Seattle. You can see on the left the Space Needle. We're actually right near the airport and the docks. We're about 6 miles from our destination, and it is still a bit of a mystery. But when we get there, it will be abundantly clear what we have come to see before we head back to Portland, where we'll be staying tonight. And Elizabeth's trying to talk us into eating somewhere decent here. So her research project is to find a place in Seattle. About a year ago, my good friend, Pastor Hai Lien Vong, and I were planning to take a trip to Portland. And we were getting all excited about it. And he called me right at the last little bit before we were supposed to go. And he said, while we're there, can we please go to Seattle? He said, I want to go see the grave of another hero of mine. We had been going to Portland together to see the grave of his spiritual father, his spiritual hero, Dr. Erik East. But what he wanted to do really amused me, and I thought it was pretty fantastic. He said, would you go to Seattle with me to see the grave of another hero of mine, Bruce Lee? Dr. Hai wanted to come here. I'm not exactly sure why, but Bruce Lee died in 1973, famous martial artist. If you're older, you know all about Bruce Lee. And we wanted to say to Pastor Hai, if he can watch us, it may seem a little bit silly to some people, but he really wanted to go. And so this kind of completes our pilgrimage as far north as we're going to go here in Seattle. We're going to try to honor Bruce Lee and Pastor Hai by going to the restaurant that Bruce Lee used to go to here in downtown Seattle. So we're hoping to visit that and eat there, and then head on back down to Portland, where we're planning to meet with the family of Dr. East. So coming to you live at the grave of Bruce and Brandon Lee here in downtown Seattle, Washington. The Run to the Battle blog, the Chin Heritage Foundation, a mission to Myanmar, love to tie things in history together, and we love to see how God brings people together too. And hey, maybe in honor of those guys, maybe you'll watch Enter the Dragon or some great kung fu flick with your kids and reminisce a little bit about Bruce Lee, the father of the kung fu movie, at least in my generation. So we're in downtown Seattle, in Chinatown, in the neighborhood where Bruce Lee apparently hung out and lived. And we had just gone to see his grave. And so we're going to eat at his favorite restaurant. We're going to see this mural here and this restaurant. I don't know exactly how true it is, but this apparently was Bruce Lee's place. And we're going to go in here and see if they really do have a Bruce Lee booth. Come behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. Psalm 46:8. Have you seen Minneapolis or Seattle lately? They and other American cities look more like Beirut and Mosul than they do like the gleaming American metropolises they once were. Burned out cars, crumbled concrete and glass, hateful graffiti, marauding bands of ruffians ruling the streets, and what for many years was a relatively peaceful city. My wife and I had been planning to make a short trip out here the year before these current events interrupted our plans. Perhaps somewhere under the famed Space Needle, we would have taken selfies of our joy and tranquility as we toured one of the country's hallmark cities. In the background of our smiling faces, you would have no doubt been able to see the peaks of the 14,400-foot Mount Rainier and the glittering glaciated surrounding mounds of Mount Paradise. That is, if there was not a haloed glow of mist from Puget Sound and those adoring clouds from the churning Pacific engulfing the city. I doubt the godless worshipers of nature who live and rule there among their own Mount Olympus will adopt it as their new slogan of tourism, but I'm going to offer it anyway. Come to Washington and behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. See the smoldering cities that once stood so proud among the peaks of a ring of an ancient sentinel of volcanoes, reminding all the certain doom of Sodom and Gomorrah and the eternal fires of hell. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. I wrote this sermon last year, and we happened to be in Seattle working on this book project. And so I wanted to run a little bit of my blog from the Space Needle here. And so we found a little parking lot. We tried to run it, but we almost got ran over. Untold wildfires washed away the earth and debris and spread through 11 states. And there's quite a lot of going on around here. It's not a great neighborhood. But I will tell you, a lot of what that sermon said still is reverberating in what is going on. There are homeless living everywhere. There's graffiti everywhere. Things are pretty rough here in Seattle. We're going down to Portland. We're going to find some more of it there. Tent cities, homelessness, poverty, drug abuse. It's pretty horrible here. And we're looking at it. We're witnessing it firsthand. But this is what happens when people turn away from God and follow the way of pleasure. People you'll see, I mean, even over my shoulder, you'll see there's at the Wells Fargo bank outside, there's people using drugs right there. There's homeless people all around laying tents in between the buildings. and a lot of trash. But God has come to save the world, and He will take us through this time, and He will bring us to a better time, because Christ is conquering His enemies. Every knee shall bow, every tongue confess, and the gates of hell won't prevail against the church. We are going to go and storm their gates. We're going to bring people out of being desperate and hopeless, and bring them to the hope of all, which is Christ.